Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar today. A little false start. So today we're going to talk about how to set up an e-commerce store in a day. And really it's quite a revolutionary announcement. I'm going to be talking about it from my own angle as a business owner. So for me as a business owner going through this COVID-19 situation, we're going to talk about kind of that process. Great. My name's Leonard. For those that don't know me, I'm the CEO and co-founder of AFDigital. I'm joined by Mikel Lindsaar. Mikel, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, g'day. I'm Mikel Lindsaar, as Robin correctly pointed out, and pronounced my name correctly, which is quite amazing. I'm the CEO of StoreConnect, and StoreConnect is a e-commerce platform powered by Salesforce. So I'll let Robin do all the initial talks, and I'll be piping in at different bits. But also, obviously, if anyone has any questions as we're going, I'm going to be manning the questions tab in GoToMeeting. So just go ahead and ask those questions. I'll quickly reply, and Robin can just keep going on the webinar.
Amazing, thanks, Mikel. Great. So it's a very simple agenda today. We're going to be talking about the new normal, and this is for me as a business owner, what I went through as with this whole COVID situation and what it looks like now for me. Then we're going to jump into a live demo of our new e-commerce store that has really just gone live today. It's really like a big milestone for our business that we're going to share with you live. And then Mikel's going to talk a bit about StoreConnect, what it does and what the future is, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. Great. So for those that don't know about my business, I'm sure many of you do, but AFDigital are a Salesforce Gold consulting partner. We're technically known as an SI or a system integrator, and we're really here to help companies leverage Salesforce and install it and configure it and manage it. We're also a Salesforce.org partner, and we're really a multi-cloud partner. So this is kind of us as a business, and if I'm being honest, in January we had the best January of our existence, and we've been around for about 9 years. We were smashing it in January, and then this happened. I think we all kind of felt this COVID thing slap us in the face and wake us up, and it wasn't just a normal slap. It's been a bit of an ongoing slap as well. If we look at all of the job losses and the economic impact of COVID-19, really some industries are hit the hardest, like retail, travel, hospitality, education, among others. And as a business, as a Salesforce consulting partner, these are our top industries. So maybe it didn't impact us, but it impacted our customers, which really did start to impact us. So, and I don't think anyone's really escaped it. The other aspect of our business and this changing COVID situation is the buying behaviors are changing so rapidly and so dramatically. So if we look here at this graph, this is B2B buyers of software spend. So we can see here that in March in the blue, they were 40% were saying, yeah, we'll spend more on software. And now in April, only 15% of those same people are saying that. And now we've actually got more people saying we'll spend less. So that's the thing, is like, well, we all know that software will probably do okay out of this crisis. There's a massive impact on spending behavior of our customers. This graph is this was a study done by McKinsey, and it's so interesting because this shows the sales cycle pre-COVID. And the dark blue is the dependency on traditional sales interactions, so speaking to a sales rep, having meetings, those kind of things. Whereas 48% said that digital enabled sales interactions were important. So it was quite balanced, but a bit of preference on traditional selling. And again, this is a B2B decision maker survey that McKinsey and company had done. So they also assessed post-COVID. And what they found is that it had doubled the expectational need to have these digital enabled sales interactions and less dependency on traditional sales processes. And I think we all kind of intuitively feel this, right? You've got a lot of people at home that they have the time to look around, and there's online resources galore. So it's actually a different kind of time to before. We used to have a meeting to get something or to buy something. You used to start with a meeting. Now it's like I'm going to do my research, and then when I'm ready to talk or ready to buy, I'm going to have that meeting.
Yeah,
So
there's a really interesting little anecdote on that. I just saw that the CBA, I think, released an announcement that last month, or just the month just gone, so it must have been April, credit card spending was only down 2% on the same time last year, which, when you consider how much the economy has contracted post-COVID, that just means that so many more people are buying online, and that digital expectation is just ramping up. And if a
exactly.
customer's being given a choice of, can I buy this online, or do I have to go and meet someone? I mean, right now they're going to go with the online options. So that's a really interesting, backup to those figures.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we all feel it, right? We all feel like, oh, if I could just do this self-service online, it would be a lot easier. I don't need to go meet someone. And even now, even less so. This graph it's the same study by McKinsey, but this graph shows a similar result, but across the journey. So you can see research, evaluate, order, and reorder. So that's like a typical B2B life cycle. And you can see here under research, so this is 2016 versus 2019. So this light blue again is self-service or digital channels, and dark blue is traditional or directed selling. So you can see here that between 2016 and 2019, in the research phase, it's flipped, exactly flipped. It's now 35% traditional. So that's super interesting. And then even the evaluation stage, it was very traditional before, and now it's a lot more digital, 61%. Ordering is still a bit closer, and then reordering. So I think the ordering area it's got room to change, but certainly you can see there's a massive impact at the front of the sales cycle for B2B that will most likely just follow through over the next few years, I would expect. So this is kind of a wake-up call, I think, for a lot of organizations, and I'm sure there's a lot of people on this call that are like, yeah, okay, this is like, we should have really been prepared a bit earlier. And I think we should ask ourselves, what is the new normal? And what do we need to change to become that new normal? As a business, and I'm sure every business out there did the exact same thing, we had a three-prong approach to the COVID-19 response. We had a first step, which was our immediate response plan. We had a kind of let's adapt to the next 3 months and see how we can survive. And then we had a thrive plan, which was, how do we, outside of this crisis, how do we actually make the most of it? How do we pivot off it and grow faster? And I'm sure many of you have implemented something similar. And I think for us as a business, we started with the typical stuff for response, like making sure we had all of our things around JobKeeper and making sure we've got the government support, just making sure our fixed costs are as low as possible. For adapting, we were all about webinars, training, free packages, all sorts of things, just to make sure that we had business coming through the door. And now we're really at Thrive, and this is the exciting part, because this is the future, and this is what we're going to be talking about today, is the actual future of our industry. This was a great study by Bain & Company that was done after the recession back in 2008, 2009, and it really categorized companies into winners and losers. And it's good to look back at this recession, because it's a good similarity. It's probably very different, but we can find similarities. So what they found is the winners were the organizations that invested during the crisis, that they pivoted into kind of areas of business that were high growth, and they really adapted. And so they actually made a huge return of 17% on average in the crisis. So they went a little bit further than just surviving. They actually thrived in the crisis. And then after the crisis, you can see they continued to grow on the right path at a slightly slower rate. Whereas the losers were more likely to just bunk down and do the same things they did yesterday, except do it very conservatively, so they survive and then stay in business into the future. But they didn't effectively change their business. This is also Bain & Company as well, and this is kind of the recommendation from them on how to deal with such a big crisis like this. And really, the advice from them is, if you are strong market position, but you don't have much cash. So the vertical axis is market position, the horizontal is cash or financial strength. So if I'm really strong with my market position, I'm a great brand, but I don't have much cash in the bank to survive this crisis. I really should be kind of focusing on my core business that makes money and taking out anything that doesn't. If I have a strong financial background, I've got lots of money in the bank, but I don't have a lot of customers or great market position. This is really where I can invest. So I can buy capability, I can acquire new businesses or new products. This is really the recommendation there. If I'm a bit of both, I'm a great brand and I'm in a great financial position, then I should be playing offense. And I think this is really probably for AFDigital, we're somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't say that we're like right at the top corner of being awesome at everything, but you know we've got a really great market position, and we started the crisis, as I said, with a great January. So we were like, you know, on form for taking on 2020 when this happened. So I guess the reason I'm sharing this is a bit of the strategy behind our decision to make this big investment. When we look at the new normal, we also had to look at our challenges as well. And I'm sure many of the people on this call are familiar with Salesforce partners, but for those that aren't, a Salesforce partner, what my business does is we're kind of like the tailors and Salesforce is the fabric. Salesforce will do an amazing job of selling the fabric. It's amazing fabric. It's the best. And then the partner comes in and has to quote and you know, fit that fabric to the person or to the business. So there's quite a lot of learning that the organization has to do to get that fitting done properly. And it's also quite difficult if they're buying a lot of different clouds from Salesforce and if there's a lot of stakeholders involved in the conversation. So it can be the learning curve for clients to actually go through that buying process, as well as buying services from a partner, is a lot to take on. There's also a very long sales process, and you know some companies, they will plan to buy Salesforce in the budget for the next year, but they'll start planning for it now, which is the correct thing to do. But because of that, you do start these sales processes very early, and they can take a very long time. And then finally, everything is high touch. And this is just the nature of the industry. We're a services business. During the sales process, we have a lot of meetings. We talk to a lot of people. We really work closely with them to kind of get them on board the investment. And then once they're onto Salesforce, that's also very high touch because we now need to understand the requirement and design custom solutions and go through a lot of change management. And so our business is end-to-end very high touch. So I think these are the challenges that we're working with. To address these, we decided to go online, and we decided to go online with everything. Last year, I think probably late 2018 or maybe early, we'd really started to invest in our single customer view. So we had drunk the Kool-Aid and really invested in our Salesforce suite to put all of our sales, service, marketing, and delivery and finance on Salesforce. So we'd actually already done that pre-COVID, which was amazing. This was the next step, is setting up an e-commerce. And as of today, this is now ticked. And I'm going to demo it for you today, but it's just the beta. So I'd really appreciate any feedback. Don't expect it to be perfect, but this is just a matter of being agile. And then finally,
it's perfect because it's live.
That's
Get
right.
orders.
Exactly.
Product is only as good as it delivers value, right? So yeah.
That's right. That's right. And yeah, I've got a huge amount of work to put my content up there and make sure it's good. So yeah, so that's our current strategy. And then our next step, and this is the next release, is actually delivery self-service as well. So this is extending our sales arm, but also our delivery arm, and making it easier for our customers and also Salesforce to engage with us and work with us to be successful. So this is what we're going to show you to you today, guys. Is really this is the strategy where we've actually gone from a very traditional consulting business into a very modern e-commerce trading business. If I look at our architecture, and I know for the technical people on the call, this is what you're really looking for, is how does it actually connect? Like, what does Robin and Michael mean when they say set up an e-commerce on your Salesforce in a day? Like, how is that possible? So this is my CX architecture. And for those that aren't familiar, we've got the customer on the right, we've got my teams on the left, so sales, delivery, marketing. We
You might
use
want to
Salesforce.
define what CX is, Robin.
Oh, sorry, customer experience. It's a bit of a jargon word. Yeah, so customer experience is really the reason we call it a CX architecture is it's really the architecture related to your customer. I don't have things in here that don't relate to your customer, like your Wi-Fi router, because it's not that important for your customer experience. Yeah, so we have our team on Sales Cloud. We also use WordPress as our CMS, which we've just got very basic website with forms. We also use email, phone. We've got surveys set up as well. So kind of as you'd expect. And then we also use the power of Marketing Cloud to run omni-channel experiences, leveraging our CRM data. So it's a single customer view. It's all amazing. But our sales process is not really here, right? We don't have a way for that client to pay us through here or transact with us. The way we do that is really invoicing and payments. So it's a little bit old-fashioned. I think we've got to change it for the client and make it easier. So earlier this year, I made a move and started looking at an e-commerce platform. And this is kind of where I landed. You know, I've got all these options, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with all of these logos. You've got the Shopify's and the Woos and the Bigs and even Wix, very easy to set up, and you can go live with those very easily. Magento, you know, Magento is Magento. I won't comment on that, but that's probably a bit of a challenge compared to Wix. But either way, I was like, okay, well, I've got my single customer view. I've invested in that already, and I'm going to add an e-commerce. I've got to integrate. And then integration, when you think about what integration means, and let's look at Shopify because it's easy. I've got to sync my customers, my orders, my order line items, all between Salesforce and Shopify to
Your
get
product,
that
your
single
product information.
and the products, exactly. Because I master my products currently in Salesforce CRM. So I'd have to send that back to Shopify or double enter it. And then I've got a double entry situation. So it's a bit of hard work, and I'd probably have to get technical people to maintain it, set it up, make sure it works correctly. It's definitely not a DIY thing, even though yes, it is Shopify. It's still not that easy.
Got an interesting anecdote on the double entry thing, Robin. One of our clients that's come onto StoreConnect previously had a separate e-commerce store from their back-end system, similar to what you were about to do with Shopify at the start of the year. And they were double entering all their products in both systems and keeping that up to date all the time. But the problem with the Shopify, or they weren't on Shopify, but the problem with their e-commerce solution was that it didn't have all the permission protections that Salesforce had. Like, it was sort of like you had one login and that login could do anything, right? So many of his sales staff had that one login so that they could go in and process orders or look up a customer's order or whatever. And one of the sales staff who no longer works for him anymore had got in because he was so annoyed that the data was incorrect. It wasn't that there was a product that they ran out of stock on, and while they were getting back orders, the sales guy was just like, "Oh, we can't deliver this right now. So I'm just going to go disable it on the website." So he went and did it there, but of course he didn't do it in the other system. And the business owner saw that that product was still available. He hadn't got the data that the sales guy was having problems. So he was still sending $5,000 a month of AdWords to that URL, and it was just coming up as not found. So he was spending
Wow.
all of this money on advertising, driving people to that product, not knowing that someone had gone in on the back end of the other store and turned it off, right? And this was one of the big drivers that they had to come onto this sort of integrated StoreConnect solution, because, you know, you can see the product's disabled because it says disabled in Salesforce, you know, and then you don't have that problem come up. But it's just an interesting real life example of the challenges that don't really seem to be there when you start this journey of trying to do an integration with an e-commerce solution until it becomes a problem, and then it gets out of hand very quickly. plus all the costs
Absolutely.
of, having staff logging in both things and translating it and all that stuff.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in reality, the fastest way to MVP is just to build a data silo with a Shopify, and then you're just starting in the wrong direction already. And this was a challenge I had because I had a board as well that I had to convince to do this. I had other stakeholders, it's not just me. So I had to actually get their confirmation. So I used Shopify before I knew about StoreConnect. I used that to build a kind of dummy store. And I used that to get the approval internally. But really, when it came down to the reality, I was like, oh, this is great, but I can't see a future where I can actually bring this data. Like, I've got to rekey those orders into CRM, or I've got to look for a connector. And I know the connectors, and there's connectors out there that do basic stuff. For me, I had a bit of a specific requirement. I needed subscriptions as well. Part of my business model was to do not only a one-time purchase, but also subscribe and unsubscribe. And for me, Shopify does do this, but I need a plugin, and then I need to sync the plugin into my Salesforce as well. So I end up having two integrations. So it just gets harder and harder. And then that's kind of where I ended. But what I was able to do is use that prototype to get the agreement with my business partners to do this properly, because it was the right thing to do. So this is where we landed technically, and it's very easy. So you can see here in blue, this is really all that's been impacted in my architecture. Still got my Sales Cloud and my Marketing Cloud. All I've done is install the StoreConnect managed package into my CRM org. And that pretty much just provisions the StoreConnect website, which immediately has the ability to buy and subscribe, click and collect, and secure login as well. So it's kind of a no-brainer. I didn't need to do any code. I didn't need to do any HTML. The website has themes that just work, like Shopify themes do. So it's literally easy, and it's installed in my org and using my product object. So I've already got my product information in there. I've already got my price list. So it's really just a matter of turning it on and choosing which products I want to show there. Cool, great. So so that's kind of the setting. Let's have a look at it. I'll just jump across. Great. Okay, so ta-da, here it is. So yeah, I mean, this is really it. It's very simple. This is a standard theme. I've got the ability to have taxons or categories, product categories. And yeah, you can really structure the homepage in any way you want. These are all just content blocks that you can move around. And you can see here we've got things like offers and things like that that you'd expect in a typical e-commerce store. For me as a business, I've got a lot of packaged services that are very quick and easy. They're templated. So we've really prioritized putting those up here, but it's not to say we can't extend this and do even custom projects through here as well. So yeah, it's very interesting. I'll just browse through some of the services so you can have a look. Yeah, so you can see we've put in things here. If I jump into one of the Marketing Cloud Power On, so you can see here it's everything you'd expect in an e-commerce site, right? You've got the details, the product description. I've got screenshots and even things like video content.
And that will just play directly in the browser when you click play. It doesn't have to go to another page.
Great. Yeah, and then I've got different information under like what to expect with my project, eligibility criteria. So you shouldn't buy this if you don't have these things, because sometimes maybe you'll buy it without the right license. So we try to minimize that with as much information up front. What are you going to expect? What are the milestones for the project? What is the scope? What will you get out of the project? And then you can see we've got related products, so these are the kind of things you'd expect in e-commerce. So maybe I'm not ready to buy this. Maybe I just want a free consultation. So that's when I may just add this to the cart. So, and what I'll do now is I'm going to step back and we can see it's got everything that it kind of you'd expect it to have. Let's jump into Salesforce and have a look at the product. So this is my live production CRM. And I usually wouldn't do demos of this, but this is really the guts of what is inside StoreConnect. So you can see I've got my marketing power on. I've got media against that. I've got details of the package. I've got all of my inclusions and exclusions, all of these things. I use these anyway. These are already here because these were how I did my contracts before. I would automate my contracts anyway. So why can't I just do that? Prep checklist, all of these things. So this is really what is the product on the website. And you can see here there's a link to just preview on site. And I'm here. It's just seamless. So for us as a business, I don't know if our customers are going to start buying on here tomorrow. Please do. But what we've done to get started, because we're B2B, is we're just going to start with a $500 deposit and see how that takes. And that's fully refundable. So if it's not fit for purpose or it's not what you expected when we do the kickoff, then we'll just give you that money back, and no harm, no foul. So that's kind of how we're approaching this digital transformation. I'd encourage everyone to have a look on the site. I'd love feedback on it. That would be really great. Cool. Well, I will hand back to Mikel.
Right.
Who's going to talk about StoreConnect.
Sure. So I'm just wondering the aspects of Salesforce and StoreConnect. One of the things that you could show, Robin, if you want, actually just jump back into the StoreConnect environment.
Sure.
And just do a purchase of one of the free Power On orders. And if you go all the way through, it'll actually show, so this is where the client's not quite ready, so they're going to buy a free product. That'll be up in the cart. They go to checkout. You might want to go back to the cart and remove that paid. Oh no, they're both free, are they? Yeah, so we're good.
Yeah.
So it's already detected that he's logged in, so it's saved and returned all of his emails there, all of his information. Robin's got these terms and conditions in place. This is all managed from within Salesforce, and we'll show you that in just a second. So he goes to the bottom of the terms and he reads all of that very carefully, obviously, and then he clicks accept at the bottom and next. And the system will stop him proceeding if that isn't checked. And then there's no payment required, so he can just go ahead and click purchase. Now, what's going on behind the scenes on this is that order is being generated, but not only is it being generated on the Salesforce, on the StoreConnect side, but it's also actually being generated live within Salesforce. So Robin can click over to Salesforce and he can go to the StoreConnect drop down there next to media at the top and click orders.
Okay.
Yep, so go to the top and go to orders. And what you'll find is if he switches from recently viewed to all orders, all the orders that have come through on the system will be there. And if he takes the top one, there you go, his free payment right at the top. So this is live synchronized back and forth between StoreConnect and Salesforce. And you can imagine that this order is now in Robin's system. So because it's in Salesforce and it's a standard order object, it's not some custom order object, this can trigger all of the standard workflows, all the standard things that you would expect to be able to be triggered from within Salesforce. Maybe a sales rep gets notified to call the customer automatically. Maybe this pops up in their leads generation, or maybe it sends out emails to service people to start the process of onboarding this customer. But we get all of this information about this customer. We can see the payments that have been made, the products that are on it. Obviously, this was a free payment, so no payment was required, but even that's shown, the history. And if Robin starts changing the status on this, it will then progress through various aspects. Another really cool aspect about this is quite often on orders and emails. In fact, if Robin on another screen checks his email, he probably just got an email saying, thank you for your purchase. But another key aspect of all this is all of this sort of transactional emails and things that are sent out. They're not managed through some secret back-end StoreConnect admin interface. Everything is managed from within Salesforce directly. There's no need for you to leave the Salesforce environment to modify anything on your store. If you want to take a product off the show page on your product website, you just go ahead and drag it off, and there you go. His order's just arrived on his email. So you can see that that's probably an older one because it's got the deposit. But yeah, he's obviously been testing this a lot, so he's got a lot of orders. But you see, that's come through. Now that order, that email is the standard email that gets sent out by StoreConnect on your base installation. But if he wanted to modify that, he would just do the following. Just jump into Salesforce again, Robin, and go to Setup. Go to StoreConnect config application. So from the app launcher, you want StoreConnect config. And he'd just go in and modify the store. So StoreConnect can handle multiple storefronts. So if you had different markets or different marketplaces and that sort of thing, you can have the same Salesforce environment driving all of them. And if you go to the transactional emails tab there, these are just all the various transactional emails that get sent by the system. And not to get too technical, but all of those are just standard classic Salesforce email templates, which means you can edit them directly within Salesforce. There's no need for you to get an external company in to modify the source code on the server or do any of this other stuff. You just edit it directly in there. If you want a logo, you add a logo. If you want to change the text, you change the text. If you want to say, this is a tax invoice, you put in, this is a tax invoice. All of that can be done directly by your administration staff or Salesforce administrator. And if you've got that capability internally, go for it. If you need help, AFDigital have a StoreConnect help setup service that I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help you with. So
it's
this is a
live
really,
on our store.
and it's live on the store. It's called StoreConnect Power On. There you go. You can buy it now. So this is a really key aspect. And if we jump back to the slides, I just want to show what I mean by that, because this is a really important point, how StoreConnect and Salesforce are combined to deliver the product. The whole purpose behind StoreConnect was we wanted to use the Salesforce design. We had a design philosophy to use Salesforce, right? And where that comes into play is if there is ever a need for a service within StoreConnect, if Salesforce has that capability within Salesforce on some sort of version of it, we will use that instead of developing our own solution. So good examples of that is the naive way to do transactional emails would just have the e-commerce solution sending out the transactional emails, right? But we realized that we could do that with Salesforce, so we did. And what that meant was that it's a way more configurable application. And as Robin said, he hasn't written a line of code to build this website. All he's had to do is get some, a little bit of training from us to make sure he puts the stuff in the right locations. But everything he's been doing is literally just typing text and uploading images. I mean, even image upload within StoreConnect is really simple. You have a button where you click to upload an image, you drag the image on, it saves it, but it doesn't save it within Salesforce. It saves it off on a cloud service provider, a content delivery network, and it's then delivered via that content delivery network, which also reduces your amount of data usage within Salesforce. So we've done a lot of these sorts of things to make it as powerful as possible on top of Salesforce. We are completely integrated within Salesforce, and as I mentioned, everything's managed within Salesforce. So there's no other screen that you have to go to. We can do a rapid implementation. If you buy StoreConnect this afternoon, we can have your website up and running before the close of business. It might not have a lot of data on it because you'll need to add the data, but it'll be up and running by the close of business with a URL, with a domain name, whatever it is you need, that can just be live. And that's a unique position. It allows you to start iterating on your sales process. And if you even just have one or two products for sale, that's fine. StoreConnect can have that live and you can direct customers to it to buy. It's fully customizable. So Robin showed you the base package theme. He wanted a couple of tweaks to that. I think we had those tweaks done in a few hours or overnight. And that's fine if you need some just little tweaks to a base theme, we can do that. But I'll talk about the roadmap on what we're doing with that. It's completely user editable. Everything that is like if you contact us to change something or update something in StoreConnect, 99.99% of the time, we're just doing that within your Salesforce environment. We don't log in on the back end to update some database points or things like that. So everything that we can do on your StoreConnect environment, you can do, or your administrator can do directly in the platform. And we have 24/7 maintenance and support. So StoreConnect itself is a fairly new product. It's been in development now for a year and a half. It's been for sale for about 6 months. However, the company that built it, my company Reinteractive, we're a team of about 40, and we've been doing 24/7 maintenance and support for applications for the last decade. And we have a team around the world that support that and keep that up to date. Some of our larger customers do 1 billion web transactions a month. So, you know, it's not a new thing to us. Next page. So I want to talk about a little bit on how, I mean, I've already touched on this a little bit, but just what guides the development of StoreConnect and how did we even get here? You know, one of the things that we wanted to do with StoreConnect was we wanted to have this idea that there's so much information and data in Salesforce. Why not just make it for sale? You know, why not just put it out on a website, get it live, get it done, and start accepting credit card transactions? And this was a key driver in how we approached it. We wanted to utilize the existing data, the existing workflows, the existing capability within Salesforce. You know, you as a Salesforce company customer has already bought Marketing Cloud or Pardot or Sales Cloud or Service Cloud or Einstein Analytics or whatever, right? You've already bought these clouds. Well, why don't we utilize them? You know, live chat. Well, Salesforce has live chat. We can just embed that on the StoreConnect site. You don't have to go and find a live chat partner or some other live chat system to plug into your Salesforce environment. Web to lead, web to case. Well, you just generate the web to lead form. You go to a content page, paste it in, boom, it's live. You know, there's no, we don't have to reinvent the wheel if it's already there within Salesforce. The other key thing we wanted to do was eliminate data silos. So this is why StoreConnect uses standard accounts table, standard contact table, standard product table, standard price book entries, standard orders, standard line items, standard leads, standard campaigns, standard campaign members. All of these objects that already exist in your Sales Cloud environment, we just leverage them. We add a few fields to some of them, and that's how it works. We wanted to help create that single source of truth. You know, Robin's now made that purchase on the website. If he went into his account on Salesforce, it'll show the order, and that order would be there from the StoreConnect environment. So the sales rep for Robin is about to call Robin to find out how he's going, quickly looks at the order table and sees that he just bought 3 free options. That conversation is going to be a lot different. Or if Robin clicks the live chat button within StoreConnect after he's logged in, we can actually show the service agent what pages he's looking at as part of that live chat integration, so that there's no mystery. You know, the service agent gets on and goes, how can I help you? And Robin goes, I'm not sure if I can actually buy this product. And instead of the live agent person having to say which product, the live agent person can say, oh, you mean the marketing power on? And Robin goes, well, yeah, you know. So it just gives that much more personalized feel. And really, with the amount of in-personalization that COVID's brought on us, no face-to-face meetings, no in-person handshakes, all that sort of stuff, you need to really push back the other way and try and make it as personal as possible. And that's what we've tried to create with StoreConnect. Hand in glove with that is exposing all the relevant information within Salesforce. So when you go to look at a customer, you see all the data. And all the data is, again, standard objects. So there's no need to look in another system or try and make this join with that and all this sort of garbage. It's just all there. We integrate completely with the Sales Cloud, various Salesforce clouds, and also with AppExchange partners. So this is an interesting take on the whole system, is that if you want to extend Salesforce with a AppExchange partner, and say that partner provides some sort of functionality on top of the orders object, well, because we just use the standard orders object, that will just work. There might be some minor configuration because you might want to pull some StoreConnect data up into that object, but fundamentally, the packages will just work as expected with minimal or no tweaking. And when you consider the thousands of applications on the AppExchange, the plugin ecosystem for StoreConnect is already massive. Key thing is clicks, not code. We do all the code to make your life just clicks, basically. And we've been working on it very hard. We've got a large team working on this. I think I have about 12 developers full-time on StoreConnect right now, and they're just smashing it out and getting various things done. And of course, it's fast. It had to be fast and simple to install. Right now, if you install StoreConnect, we set it up for you, and we can do it in a few hours, but we'll be setting it up for you. In about 4 to 6 weeks, our plan is that anyone, anywhere in the world who has a Salesforce account can go and click install on the App Exchange, and 2 or 3 hours later have a live store that they can do a checkout on. And towards the end of probably middle of next month, I plan to release a video that's 10 minutes long showing from install to purchase and showing the card transaction on my bank statement. So that's sort of the thing that we'll be able to do with StoreConnect. And the key point on this is it's really targeted towards those companies that just need to get online. You know, they don't have a multi-million-dollar, how are we going to migrate to online sales plan? That's not the target market for what we're after here. What we're after is how do we help a client get their existing data in Salesforce online this week and get it live, you know, and be a real product that can actually just accept transactions and move from there. Good, next slide. So this is a whole bunch of features around StoreConnect. I'm not going to go into every one of these because there's a lot. But some of the key points out of this, and I want to leave some time for some questions too, is it's suited for both B2C and B2B commerce. So Robin showed you the AFDigital website, but we have other ones like Ivanhoe's bicycle website, and they just sell bikes. And actually, Robin, if you could pull that up, that'd be great. Just to give an example of a client that's gone and created their own theme
Sure,
and had
sure.
a different theme. It's ivanhoecycles.com.au.
Cool. Okay, great. Just give me a second.
So he'll pull that up. But the AFDigital design is just a very basic theme design. So this is another StoreConnect environment. And obviously this looks incredibly different to AFDigital. But again, it's a standard StoreConnect environment backed by Salesforce. So just to show where all of those things come into play and how they all hang together, I don't think there's anyone in that one. Just go to bikes as a category. Yeah, just click there. There you go. This is what happens when you do a live demo and you have people. We haven't drilled this at all. So yeah, we can add that to cart and just go through that whole shopping experience that you would normally expect. And if you actually want to buy that, you can. I'm sure they'll be happy. So, but actually what's going to happen now is if Robin went through part of that checkout process and he didn't finish, StoreConnect's going to create an abandoned order within Salesforce, which can then trigger marketing flows and all that sort of stuff to Robin to tell him to, well, he really should buy that little bike for his toddler. And by the way, I bought one of these. It was actually when this site went live, I actually bought that that bike for my 2-year-old, and she absolutely loves it. So yeah.
Cool.
So this is all an example of how we can hang all these together. This one you have to go and collect in Melbourne. So good luck with that. So
Right.
yeah, let's jump back to the slides. That's just an example of a different design, a different store, and how it all hangs together. We can handle, as I mentioned, we can have live chat enabled on it. It will plug into Marketing Cloud and Pardot. You can drag that data out of the Salesforce Cloud into Marketing Cloud and Pardot to do drip campaigns and all of that sort of thing. We extensively use standard objects. All of the pricing is just done through standard price books. And this is actually a really key point, because when your inside salespeople are going to go talk to your clients, you don't want them quoting a price that's different to what you're advertising on the website. And because we use standard price books, that will automatically update. But one of the key things you do want is, for some of your customers, you want to give them discounts. So we can have price books not only associated with a whole store, but associated right down to an individual account. And that means that you could have one client that gets certain special discounts on certain products, but on the rest, they just get the standard pricing. Or you can have them have a percentage discount across a whole price book, or however it is you want to do that, which also encourages them to sign up, right? Because if they're signed in, they get the discount. If they don't, they don't, which then leads back to marketing and drip campaigns and all this sort of thing. The other key thing about StoreConnect is it's priced very competitively. It's basically the fee is $1,000 a month US and 1% of transaction costs. So we're very much invested in you growing and expanding, and we're targeted right at the bottom end of that market. So for 12 grand a year, basically US, you can have a StoreConnect website fully integrated with your Salesforce environment, live and up and running, and maintenance and hassle-free with that full integration. You can have multiple storefronts for the one store. This is something that we haven't demoed on this call, but say AFDigital want to create a US store, and that US store has slightly different positioning or different marketing, or it might even have a different brand. It definitely has different prices. They could do it one of two ways. They can have a separate store, so it might be afdigital.com as opposed to .com.au, and that would have its own price book and everything. Or they can use the existing store and just have a currency selector at the top to change the price to USD or Australian. One of our customers actually has, or one of our prospects, they haven't signed up yet, but they will. They have about 12 brands, and they're an importer, and they're maintaining 12 different Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, and WooCommerce stores. Not only do they have 12 different stores, but they have 4 different types of stores. And out of all the 12 of those stores, none of them are on the same version. So if they want to implement a web to lead form, they have to go and create a different web to lead form for every different store and make sure it works with that environment. We're talking to them about simplifying that down to one Salesforce org, one StoreConnect installation, and 12 shop fronts. So that would obviously relieve a huge amount of work in their company. Everything's mobile responsive in how it works. You can zoom and shrink and expand it. Your choice of payment methods, so we don't lock you into just Stripe or eWay or whatever. If you have a connection to CommBank, or you want to use Afterpay or ZipPay or any other pay, we can just implement that. That's not a problem. You can have custom or fixed price shipping. So StoreConnect already comes with that. We also already have an Australia Post full integration, which will calculate shipping, create the shipment consignment within Australia Post, and have that logged into your account. You can run all your promotions and discounts and things through StoreConnect and Salesforce as well. So they're just some of the high-level features. There's a lot more. It's a very deep product. We've been really pushing out features on this, but that gives you some ideas. Next slide. So the key thing, where are we going with StoreConnect? What are we trying to do here? So obviously, forward-looking statement, but I'm not a public company, so it doesn't matter too much. But this is very much a roadmap of where we're going, and a lot of this is actually already in development. So it's not like these are pipe dreams or anything. In fact, everything on this page is already in development, so none of it is a pipe dream. So the first thing is the self-provisioning installation process. That's where you just go and turn it on. That's probably about 6 to 8 weeks away. We've got liquid themes. So if you're familiar with Shopify and some of the other platforms, they have this technology called Liquid, which allows you to take the theme, the HTML files, give them to a designer, and that designer goes and turns it into a nice looking theme that you can then re-upload. So we're doing that with StoreConnect so that you're not locked into any theme from us, and you don't need us to develop our theme for you. If you want to just change it, you can go ahead and change it. Obviously, then if you break it, you need to fix it, but there you go. Give person the tools, and they can either shoot themselves in the foot or they can go get dinner. We're going to do a lot of work around CMS functionality. Right now, it's very text-based, and you have to know what to click and where to click, but we're going to be turning that more into a WYSIWYG drag and drop development interface. Ideally, Salesforce are coming out with their own CMS option, and once that gets to a point where it supports the features we need, or we can extend it to support the features we need, we'll migrate everyone onto that, and that would just be part of the service. You wouldn't necessarily be paying more for that. We just go ahead and migrate you over. We're developing out a CPQ implementation right now. So this again falls back to our design philosophy, where we use Salesforce if it exists. So Salesforce already have a solution for doing product design wizards and bulk discounts and all of this sort of stuff, and that is CPQ. So we're currently developing out that solution where you might have a product wizard. So you've got like this service, and it consists of 4 other services, and you buy the main service, and it walks through a wizard of going, okay, do you want the standard or do you want the premium version of this, and the standard and the premium and the low-cost version of this, and you can create your own product mix. So we're developing that out, and the way that will work is you install CPQ in your org. You get the number of licenses you need, which to begin with can be very few, could be 1 or 2 or even 3, and you then go ahead and create those bundles and product masters within CPQ, and it will just appear on StoreConnect. So there is no middle step. And that's going to be pretty revolutionary when we launch that. We've got the membership functionality in process right now, which is what Robin was talking about. That's the ability for a person to sign up on a plan. So they get a payment plan, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, whatever that payment plan is that you want to create. And our system will just keep billing them at the anniversary of each payment plan. And every time we bill them, it creates a standard Salesforce order, right? So again, you can just use those same flows, those same processes. You know if the client's up to date because you can see it. That ties in with subscription management. We also have a lot more shipping methods and payment methods coming down the line, and every customer that comes in has their own particular shipping provider, and we just work with them to build that sort of solution. Which actually leads me into an interesting thing that we do. Generally, with software as a service type solutions like this, you get what you get and that's it. With StoreConnect, we have a solution to that called accelerated development. So if you need a product or a solution that we plan to release in the next 12 months or 2 years, it's already on our roadmap. We're just not there yet. What we can do is we can go halves with you on the development cost, and we go ahead and develop it right now. And then we roll that out to all of our clients. So everyone benefits, but you get it now as opposed to having to wait 6 to 12 months. So that's our accelerated development option, and pretty much every one of our customers takes advantage of that. Of course, if you need something built onto StoreConnect, which is completely unique to your business, we can also do that, but that just becomes custom development. So yeah, that's it. We're 10 minutes before the end of the hour. So I'd love to hear if there are any questions. I don't see any. I don't know if that means I don't have access or not, but there might be.
You may not have access, I guess. There are a couple of questions down there.
Right.
Cool. So maybe I'll just go through them. So does StoreConnect leverage/require Salesforce community licenses?
No, there's no community licenses required at all for StoreConnect.
Great. Okay. And does it leverage, or does it?
So the way that we can make that work is we can implement a single sign-on with communities. If you do already have a communities or a partner cloud or that sort of thing, we can turn on single sign-on. We're doing that right now for one of our customers. And what that means is that your clients, once they log into StoreConnect, will also be logged into communities. However, that's not a requirement, and we can launch StoreConnect without that.
Great. And I think the same question for CPQ from the same person, but I think that's been answered.
Yeah, CPQ is not required, and will work out of the box without CPQ. The only thing that you won't be able to do without CPQ is having complex bundle wizards and quantity-based price breaks or account-based price breaks. Try and saying that 20 times. That are all sort of automated. We support multiple price books out of the box with or without CPQ, so you can still have a specific price per account, but that is something that just gets created by you within Salesforce. But the bundling wizards or the product builder type tools, that requires CPQ.
Great, thank you. Next question, do you offer any disaster recovery?
Yeah, so this is actually a key point. Everything that's done with StoreConnect is built on top of the Heroku cloud, which is owned by Salesforce, right? And you can look into Heroku and how it all works, but every StoreConnect customer gets their own dedicated database, compute units, search indexes, all of this sort of stuff. It's all dedicated in their own little silo of data. Now, because we use the Heroku databases, those databases are constantly backed up, and we use a standard database, so we're not using one of the cheap hobby dynos. So all of that's constantly being backed up. And because the whole environment is configuration, not coding, if I went onto Robin's website right now and blew away his entire Heroku environment and did that now, I could redeploy that in an hour, and it would all just come back up again, and it would just download all of the information from Salesforce, because Salesforce has got the source of truth. In fact, there's a funny story on that. When we were developing StoreConnect, we had our demo site up and running, and at some point, the connection between Salesforce and StoreConnect went down, right? It was failing. And we weren't really actively doing anything, so we weren't noticing it, but I was giving demos every day, right? And after about 2 weeks of giving demos every day, it sort of dawned on me that the data wasn't synchronizing back. So, the order object wasn't showing up in Salesforce. And I went, why is that? So I logged in and had a look, and the connector was down. But the funny thing is, for the previous 2 weeks, we were still making payments and doing transactions and selling stuff on the StoreConnect environment. So as soon as I re-enabled the connector, StoreConnect and Salesforce went a bit berserk for about half an hour, just shuffling all the data back and forward and getting it all up to date. And then boom, it was just suddenly back up to date again. So we've definitely used a lot of our knowledge in building high availability websites for our clients at Reinteractive and high availability mobile apps to build out this sort of very resilient system that has all these integrations, but if any part of it goes down, it just keeps doing its thing. And then when that synchronization comes back up, it just floods it all back in. The other key thing we've done around that is each object sort of owns a part of the transaction process. So the StoreConnect website owns the creation of payments, for example. So they get synced over to Salesforce, and Salesforce owns like accounts and contacts that already exist, so they get synchronized back. So very rarely do we actually get a conflict of data where we've had the same thing updated in both locations, because it's very clear which one owns what. So in terms of disaster response or disaster recovery, we depend on Heroku Connect. All of your data is constantly backed up. It's also backed up within Salesforce, and that's actually where the critical data is. So for it to be a real disaster, Salesforce would have to go down, and I don't think that's happened, yet. So, and they've got a very powerful disaster recovery in place. Again, this comes back to us depending on Salesforce, right? So we use as much of Salesforce as possible, so that sort of problem goes away.
Great. And there is actually another question. What happens if Salesforce goes down?
Yeah, so if Salesforce went down for maintenance, the StoreConnect site just keeps running. And what happens is all the synchronization just delays. So it just builds up in StoreConnect. All the orders just keep building up. And then when the synchronization comes back on, it just floods them through. And the client, the end user, won't know any difference. It just appears, looks like, oh yeah, I'm still shopping, it's all good, and goes through. Because of course you have to take down your Salesforce environment every now and then for maintenance, but that's how we make it work, and it works really well.
Great. Okay, cool. Just 2 more questions now. Are the payment gateway commercials separate to these commercials?
Yes. So you need to have a payment gateway agreement with your payment gateway, be that Stripe or eWay or ZipPay or Afterpay or whomever. You have that agreement and you pay that percentage on the credit card fee. We have the $9.95 plus 1% of transaction volume, which is in addition to that. Depending on the volume, like this is for a sort of a standard store or standard size store. If you're doing a lot of transactions, we can negotiate the 1% amount. It really comes down to what the volumes are. The reason we have that 1% primarily is that the more transactions you're doing, the more resources we have to launch within the Heroku environment to support your organization and make sure that the response times are really fast and that the customers aren't coming into any problems. There's also more resources needed to support that application. For example, if you've got a website that's doing $10 million a month worth of transactions, you're going to be a lot more sensitive to half an hour of downtime than, say, Robin would be if he's putting 100,000 through it per month on the website. We can take Robin offline Sunday evening for a few hours, and it probably won't matter too much to his bottom line. But if you've got a really high volume application, we need to be a lot more sensitive around that. We need to be a lot more responsive on the transaction times and making sure everything's working. So we scale with you basically, and that's how that works.
Great. Okay. Cool. So final question, is it applicable in Asia, Philippines in particular?
Sure.
Great.
We can turn
Easy
it,
answer.
so yeah, it'll work in any environment. We can deploy that and get it up and running. It's an internet website. The content that you put on it can be in whatever language that you put in. So if you've got your product and you've got that product translated into, Indonesian or the Filipino or whatever, that will just show up on the StoreConnect site as that language. We can also work with those companies and people if they want to help us do some translations on little things like the word checkout and stuff like that. We can work with a company on that and get that done. That's fairly straightforward for us.
Great. Okay. And I've got one new question. If I have Heroku already, then does the cost change?
No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, the reason for that is that we found that in order to support these stores and keep them live, we look after the transaction costs with Heroku. The other reason for that is we also have a bit of buying power when it comes to Heroku. And some of the technologies that we use for this, for an individual company to purchase, can be a little bit expensive. And we've managed to negotiate a really good deal that allows us to squeeze that in. So that's how that works. It runs on our cloud. The other thing that we found is that sometimes we need to roll out updates and get things done, and we just need unfettered access to that StoreConnect environment to make sure that it gets deployed and done correctly. So last year we did experiment with this a little bit and would use existing client Heroku clouds, and it really did not turn out very well. So we've moved the other way. It's just a fixed store. As we grow, we might be able to get some more savings around the costs and reduce them even further. But for right now, that's where it stands.
Great, thank you. Well, that's all the questions. So yeah, thank you everyone for your attention. We're gonna, this is recorded, so we'll make sure this is available on our YouTube channel. But yeah, thank you very much. And on yours.
Okay, see you. Thank you very much, everyone. Great to have you, and feel free to contact us, and we'll get AFDigital to come in and install your StoreConnect app as soon as we can. See you later.
Thank you, bye.